started out, but we are back tonight with Ryan Winn talking about Hammerella Thundersmoke.
It's all right.
Boy. So let's get into it right away. Yeah, it's amazing. 96% of your goal fulfilled on the extension. 6 days left. I got to say, it is a pretty impressive feat. And this is your first crowdfunded book, right?
Correct. I've been a part of crowdfunded books. I'm not sure if I talked about it last time I was on, but I've been a part of the team. Like a writer creator came to me as an artist, but he ran the campaign. They ran the campaigns. I was just a hired gun, you know. So this is the first time where I'm manning the ship, if you will.
And so now that you're in overtime, 4th and 10, about to cross that line, what have you added to it? Because I've noticed there's a bunch of things that are new.
Yeah, we've added quite a bit. It sort of turned into a store for us, which is one of the great things about Indiegogo, is you can add these perks and make the perks individual add-ons and things like that. And we started off with our regular set of perks, which are fairly standard. You know, we have our perks with collections and bundles and then digital and so forth. And then each week we were adding every Saturday we added a new perk that had something to do with Dean Kotz, who's our series artist on Gods and Gears. Mm-hmm. And each week those would sell out immediately, which is both fantastic and ruined my plan for the week to have those things to market as a push. So it's a weird thing to complain about, but you know how it goes. You're like, hey, wait, I have nothing to push right now. You guys bought up all the special stuff already. So every week we came up with a new one, and eventually we just Dean couldn't take on anymore. So we had to close those out after the 5th week or so, and then people kept asking about our displays. I have a Gods and Gears display as one of the perks that comes with the Hammerella book, and it's a little woodcut display. It's cut out, it's laser cut, and it had here's the newest version that we added. So we had one that's the Gods and Gears that you can get as a Gods and Gears fan, put all your books in. Mm-hmm. But people have been asking if they could get it custom, and we had to do some dialing in, and I had to do some thinking about, because you're dealing with other people's artwork or files, and how much do you want to deal with that sort of thing, and how much is it going to be worth it to both of us to do it. So we worked it out. I opened 10 slots at $30 for this custom comic display. So whether you're a creator, a retailer, or a collector, you can get whatever logo you want. Say you want a logo of your favorite popular comic book. We're not mass producing these. You don't have to tell me here. I'll put that logo on there for you, and you can put it in your collection. Say you've got your own book, like Gods and Gears. Ta-da! I have my Gods and Gears display here next to me in my studio. You can get your comic title on there, or whatever you want. Cool. I was even telling a couple friends, like put your CDs in there, put your band logo on there, put your CDs in there or something. You can do whatever you want with it.
All the swag for your shows.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I said, it's laser cut out of wood. It snaps together. There's no tools needed. There's no hardware. It's a nice, cool little simple display for you.
And so going down a little bit, I did notice that most of the sketch stuff is sold out.
Yeah, that stuff went quick. Which is cool, but I don't know that I expected that,
But I did notice, for anyone who is still interested, there is still the sketch from Ryan Winn at the $50 level.
That's right.
Still 2 more of those left.
And that's any character you want. As you can see there's an Etrigan, there's a Solomon Kane, and a Magnum PI. So you suggest whatever you want. The weirder, the cooler to me, or the less, the less popular. I love drawing Batman, but I get a lot of Batman requests. As soon as I saw Magnum PI pop up on the list, I was like, That's next. That's next.
And I believe I recognize Edragon from your channel as well. So
there you
if
go.
you buy,
That's right.
you might be the topic of a video.
Very true. Yeah, a lot of those I ink them on my weekly late night ink along videos that we do over on my YouTube channel, and very well. I can't talk right now. There's a high probability that I will ink the piece you choose on my YouTube channel. There we go. I got it
out. So I also noticed too, 16 pages just added.
That's right. That's the biggie. So what we did there was sort of to show our thanks and support, and to kind of just make the book that much cooler. We decided to add our original 12-page story. It sort of works as our 0 issue to Gods and Gears. It came out on a Wednesday, issue 8, which was this bad boy for any of you Alterna fans out there. And it sort of introduces you to the idea and the universe of the Gods and Gears world. And we thought that anyone that's new to it, that's just starting with Hammerella, this would be a good way for them to, read up on that after Hammerella, and then dive right into the Gods and Gears series and feel like they're just, on the cusp of it. They're ready for it. And it's also only been printed in the newsprint. So this will be the first time that it's like a semi-gloss paper in a perfect bound collection. And that's going to sort of add to the collector's item aspect of this book. And we're also, so that's only 12, and you're like, hey, there's 16 plus added. So he's going to be, Dean Kotz, our series artist, is going to be doing a prologue and an epilogue to the Hammerella story. Now I'm writing and drawing the Hammerella story, but he's going to be adding these bookends that will help us sort of thread this into the Gods and Gears universe a little bit more.
Very cool.
And it's a really fun concept. I don't want to give it away, but it's a fun concept that we got.
And is this recolored at all?
No, those are the original the original color files from the newsprint book. There may be a little more oomph to them. On the newsprint, you lose just a little bit. You don't lose much.
Sure.
You lose a little bit of like gradations or cuts and things like that.
Yeah, it's interesting to see it enhanced like this. I can't remember if we talked about it on the stream or later, but I'm a big fan of the colors of the Gods and Gears because they're more or they're closer to traditional flats than most of what you see in the comic book industry these days. And I think they work quite well. But as I'm looking at this one here, it's interesting because you really do pick up a lot more detail, and it's not as flat as I had originally thought, or at least some of it.
No, that's how it is. So at the same time, I've been, or I shouldn't say at the same time. I'm stumbling on all my words here tonight. So I had to adjust colors, or I thought I had to really adjust for newsprint, because like a lot of people, I was like, it's going to come out really flat. I need to really work on color theory. My flat colors need to be really solid and really good. And then Feast or Famine came out from Alterna, and the coloring that Dave Swartz does on that is stellar. And there were cuts and grads and airbrush and all these techniques that are modern techniques, and they all showed up on the page. Now, granted, when I compared the file to the page, there's slight, just like you noticed here, there's a little more, I just always refer to it as oomph. There's a little more oomph to it. Instead of getting into the details, there's a little more oomph to it. And I noticed that with his, so I was like, okay, so we can go to a certain level, but there's going to be a slight degradation, but I was still really impressed with what modern newsprint can carry through.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I had Peter Samedi on a few weeks ago, and we were talking a little bit about it. And, and I had mentioned something about people, think that it has to be exactly like it was, but the technology's improved. And he's like, yeah, I get weekly flyers from my grocery store and the hamburgers look delicious. And until he said that, it never dawned on me that, oh my God, he's absolutely right. These are photorealistic prints on newsprint.
Nope, that's one of the ways he got me a couple years ago. He he was discussing it, and I was still in the mindset that it would be limited, and I was still in the
Yeah.
mindset that it would be the dot matrix pattern. You know,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
for the flesh tones, it would be the tiny red dots surrounded by white.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it is that still, but they are microscopic dots now. So when you're looking at the skin tone in these Alterna books, like I can't. I have to really zoom in on a bright light, or I noticed it when I was taking a picture of the page with my camera. My
Hmm.
camera, I could see the printing dots there, but otherwise, you cannot see the printing dots on there. So that it does have a modern, a modern edge to it that you can really get a lot more than most people would think. And the hamburger example from Peter is is just fantastic. It's like I get this every week, and the hamburger looks tasty, and you're like, that's such a good way to say
Yeah. Well, and it does sort of say something about him too. I think one of my first Alterna videos, I noted that he uses those same hamburger flyers to pack all of his products.
that. Yes, he definitely does. I almost was like, wait, is he getting these printed? Is he printing up these hamburger things? This is like his own example, and then stuffing the boxes with them.
um,
I do want to say hi to Art C Designs for and thank him for showing up. He's a
hey,
great
Art.
friend that shows up on all sorts of streams. Yeah, I met him over on the Jimmy Reyes channel, and
Oh, very cool.
he's a digital inker, and he's encouraging me and giving me all kinds of great ideas for videos. So thanks for joining us, Artsy.
All right. And so, and we also have a little bit more of the art that I believe was not on there last time. This,
Yeah,
like,
correct.
almost, you had mentioned the robot parts, you had mentioned the, sorry, I forget the name, the Galactic Space Force or the Police Force or.
Oh, they're called Blue Astra, and I usually
That's
refer
right.
to them as a rogue naval flight squad.
Ah, but it almost seems like you're in Frankie B. Washington territory here with the giant mecca, and it's kind of interesting to see how the universe sort of splits, and it's, you've got ancient, how would you say, like ancient culture things, like especially on the as we're talking about the original 12 page um, series that was in, it came out on a Wednesday. It very much in, not quite Time Bandits. That's not the what I'm looking for, but
A
almost
little
like
bit.
Indiana Jones meets Time Bandits, almost.
Yeah, I
Um,
was saying I've been referring to it as Goonies meets Time Bandits.
yes, Goonies. That's a
Or
much
I'm
better.
sorry, Goonies meets Indiana Jones. Goonies meets Indiana Jones is what I've been saying. I like Time Bandits though. I like throwing that in there.
And so I do have some questions. Uh,
Yeah.
what's with the mushrooms in mycelia?
I was waiting for this from you last time because you're one of the few people that in tweets and I think even some comments on maybe Pete's videos or something where I had talked about it, you I think mentioned that you understand what mycelium is.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, or at least you know the term enough to know that it had something to do with the mushrooms, because I call the area that the in South America, sort of the hidden city in South America that the boys are in, we call that mycelia, and that is directly taken from the word mycelium, which I don't know, for in a simple way, it's a fungusy net that sort of threads through the dirt and the soil all around the planet, and
Mm-hmm.
it sort of works like there's giant patches of them, and mushrooms grow in certain ones of them, and they sort of work as one giant nervous system. um, and it's really
Ah.
fascinating. If you go look this stuff up, it's super fascinating that there's basically one organism can be over acres and acres or miles and miles, and it's connected just through the dirt and through the earth and things like that. And so whenever I go down the road of studying things like this, or down these wormholes about wormholes and things like that, um, I try to, or I don't even try, just certain things will bubble up as ideas for the story. And when I was working on how the teleportation or sort of threading dimensions worked in Gods and Gears, I slowly started coming up with this mushroom tree idea, and that was based on what I'd learned about mycelium, but I wanted to take that to like a cosmic level. So I was like, okay, so what if there's sort of like a dimension that contains it's like something that connects all the dimensions, like it's something that's in between all the worlds and times. I was like, it's almost like it's the goop that makes up everything, and our worlds and galaxies pop off of this, like what would I do? So I was just, I don't know, just trying to come up with that concept. And the mushroom trees started to come in just as a visual at first. It wasn't really tied to the teleportation yet. And then I started to realize, like, oh, duh, mushrooms, the mycelium, what I've been studying about, psychedelics and this fungus
Aha!
stuff. I started to realize, like, there's a connection there. There's a connection there. So the trees can sort of be like, there's these seeds. And I was like, yeah, that's it. So there's these seeds. You can send these seeds out into the universe just wildly. And wherever they land or plant, if they take root and the tree grows, if you have a tree and the right spell, you can go wherever that seed went. And I was like, oh, okay. And so then I started thinking of this interdimensional thing, like the mycelium we have on Earth. I just started thinking this cosmic version of this. It interconnects everything. And obviously you have to have the pathway. I wanted it to be visual. And then that's where the name of mycelia for the city came from. So then it's also sort of a fun play on psychedelics as well, where you take a psychedelic and you can go to space. I've done that a few times myself. I've had crazy intense trips where I'm just flying through the stars, and I can see the way they're charted, and I can see these paths, and I can see all these things that look like maps in space, and all of that ended up kind of falling into Gods and Gears pretty naturally and organically too. I was searching for these answers for the story, and these my own personal experiences, which is what happens when you're creating. That stuff just started flooding to the front. And even though the book itself isn't about psychedelics or anything like, it's an all ages story. But there's potions that put you into certain frames of mind. There's things like that. And so the giant mushroom trees were sort of that representation of what I had learned from psychedelic mushrooms and mycelium, which is, like I said, that fungus that interconnects like for miles and miles and connects plants and rivers and all sorts of things as a single organism. So I was like, okay, so that'll be fun. We don't necessarily have to get that in depth about it either.
Right.
Like I hint about it. I think in like the second or third issue, we talk about that the demigods had sent the seeds of the I call them the hearth trees, because they have the hearth, the flame burning in the middle of them.
Oh, okay.
And so we explain a little bit about, like, the gods planted these seeds, and that's how they came to Earth, was by going through these portals. But I figured it's going to just be something that I slowly explain. I mean, I'll explain it when we're discussing, but in the story, it's going to be just kind of slowly explained over the years and over the series, because each storyline, the boys are going to teleport or do somebody's going to be doing something like that, and we're going to eventually be learning more and more about the blending. I forgot to mention that. We decided our interdimensional threading area, it's called the blending, because basically you can all things blend there. Like you can go in there and you can get to any time frame, any dimension, any possibility. It's sort of like almost like a negative zone, but has all sorts of unique aspects to it.
Oh, very interesting. Yeah, because I remember seeing the mushrooms in that first the preview, I guess you call it. It came out on a Wednesday, and I remember thinking, oh, okay, mushrooms. Like, is that a giant mushroom? And okay, that's weird. And then when Gods and Gears came out, and it started to have more of that. A little bit more than just like straight Indiana Jones or not Solomon Kane, Alan Quartermain type of vibe.
Okay.
I was kind of, you start getting into like the spirits in that cave. They've got to tell the stories and different spells and everything. And I was kind of wondering, I had a feeling with the age group, it wouldn't be quite, people are getting all hopped up on shrooms or something. But I wondered, it almost had like a bit of a shamanic vibe in there. And they do take drugs in order to like theoretically go into other realms and see into other visions. And I wonder if like, okay, maybe there was like that sort of a process going on when you were creating that stuff.
You mean, was I going on
Well, not were
certain?
you on shrooms, but were you sort of the mind of the mindset like, oh, okay, I kind of want people to have like these expansive journeys, and I wasn't 100% sure like how much of it was like you leave your body to go to these other places versus like it's all of you that physically goes to another realm, Carbon City or the jungles.
Yeah. Now that's something I realize now. Luckily, most people that read the story liked it. They liked those aspects of it. But I have found that, like you, there's a lot of people with certain questions like that where I didn't quite make things clear. I had a few readers who I didn't make it clear that Jimmy stays on Earth. He travels through time and he goes from Carbon City to
Mm-hmm.
Mycelia, which is in South America. So I had some people that they thought Mycelia was a different dimension and things like that. So I was like,
Ah.
okay, so I need to really make this stuff clear without it being just a super clear like exposition, like this is how the blending works. I don't want to have that character spend 3 pages telling someone how it works, but I do need to really start making it clear, because we've got a huge universe and we're dealing with, I mean, just in the first 4 issues, we're dealing with literally like millions of years of a time frame or at least hundreds of thousands of years of a time frame that we're dealing with. So it can get really confusing. And sometimes as the creator, you don't notice when it's gotten confusing. Like you can tell the forest from the trees, but if you're bringing
Mm-hmm.
someone in that's new, they're like, "Yo, this is all not clear. I don't know where I'm going." Um,
I have to say though, I kind of like that aspect of it. It keeps me more interested. Um, I don't know, I'm one of those people who sort of like gets obsessed with a universe. Like I probably know more than I should about like the Tolkienian universe, and then I'll like
mhm.
go down a rabbit hole of like videos on George R. R. Martin's things where probably he hasn't thought of it as in depthly as most of those people. So but it's like once I sort of hit that limit, like, okay, I kind of know everything now. I lose a bit of interest. So I would say, definitely keep some of that mystery and then just build on it later. And some things, like, even if you don't know now, it's fine. You could just once, you could even just listen to like people like, oh, I think it's this, I think it's that. And like, oh yeah, that is pretty cool. I'll go that way.
Well, I was actually, one thing that was lucky is we had the first 2 issues done before they went to print, and we were going to have all 4 issues done. We were
Mm-hmm.
set and scheduled, and then a bunch of just a series of unfortunate events happened that we got behind on the second 2 issues. And uh, the one of the benefits to that was certain fans, they let me know early on, hey, this wasn't clear, or what does that mean, or is this a thing? And I was actually able to write and adapt, to either make something more clear that I didn't
Mm-hmm.
before, and or to advance something to make it cooler than it originally was, or people thought something was cool. I was like, hey, you know what? We can actually make that a bigger deal. I thought that was going to be a throwaway thing, but people liked it, so let's let's play off that. Where we wouldn't have been able to do that if we'd had all 4 issues done. I think the issues would have been just as good, but there was something to being able to respond like almost like it was live in a way, where it's like as we're creating it, we're getting feedback and responding to that. So there was, you know, I'm always trying to find the silver lining, and that was the silver lining on for us being late with those, was that we were able to kind of hone in on some things that people liked, and then clear up some things that were mysterious. So I did realize that, like you said, you like to have some stuff be mysterious. I did realize that I can do that with things, that there are things that like I can put in there. I don't have to explain this now. I'll explain it later, but you know, you just pepper it with enough information so that it's interesting, and but you don't want it to feel like I don't know, like a, oh, I forget the term now, but you're not, you know, it's not just something you're throwing out there like a for fun, just to throw away. It's not just a throwaway cool thing.
It's like
but I
dating.
like that too. Go ahead. Yeah.
It's like dating. You know, on the first date, you can't tell your whole life story. That's no good. Then you're not interesting anymore. You got to be like, oh, and then this one time, you know, I was in Japan, and oh, hey, so what do you think of the spaghetti? You know, and then like leave a little bit of mystery for the next time.
Exactly. No, that's a really that's a good analogy. That's a really good analogy. I like that. And the more I write, the more, you know, I've only been writing a few years, and the more I write, the more the more I've written, the more I learn how to do that. Like, so the next series, I already kind of know, like, oh, I know exactly how to pepper in stuff and then pull on it in the third and fourth issue. Like, I stumbled into how to do that for the first series, but now I got the formula. No, but no, now I've figured out some things and done some practice. So it's like, okay, now I can push and pull a little bit with the narrative and really try to have fun in a way that I normally, as an artist, I'm thinking about that visually. And now I can have fun, like, you know, tugging on the emotions of the readers or their thoughts and philosophies about things. So I'm looking forward to playing more as a writer.
So speaking of writing, as a writer, are you the kind of writer who listens to music as you're writing?
Sometimes. It kind of depends what I'm working on and kind of the mood I need to be in. But definitely, let's see. I'm trying to remember what I did for Gods and Gears. Gods and Gears was a lot of like Bowie, some of my friends' bands. I like a lot of local or independent bands, so I would throw in some of my friends' bands, or my friends Viwatt from Japan. I put a lot of their music to Gods and Gears videos on my YouTube channel, so I would listen to them a lot. And they kind of have this like electric punk vibe that it could be. Their songs could be anything from the 80s to now, which is kind of how I like my comics too. So that kind of worked. And with Hammerella, it's a lot of synthwave. I would just I would just do synthwave like channels on YouTube that are just playing live, like their tracks live. And then I found Institute 91, who is an independent synthwave band. They're on Twitter. They did a soundtrack for our friends on the City of Rot book recently. And the last couple of months, I've been listening to a lot of their work. Got their whole discography. So yeah, a lot of synthwave during Hammerella. I would probably, if we get to do a soundtrack, it would probably lean anywhere from the Hammerella theme song we have that's a little bit rock and roll to synthwavy kind of stuff.
Oh, very cool. So do you find that like when you select the music that you're going to listen to when you're writing, do you do it more like, oh, I'm in this kind of mood, therefore I get such and such music? Or do you say like, this scene needs to be, you know, have like this kind of emotion or put me in this kind of mood, and therefore you find some music that like amplifies your own feelings, if you know what I mean? Like you need to be sad.
Yeah.
So you find some music that you find sad to make you more sad.
You know, I haven't done that, and I do feel like that would work. Music's very emotive, to the point where even if you don't want it to be, it's emotive because
Hmm.
it's dealing with the rhythms of your body basically. Um, that's actually really interesting because I guess I'm usually thinking of it in the big picture sense where like, oh, Hammerella has a synthwave vibe, therefore I'm listening to synthwave while I'm working on it. Where yeah, I hadn't really thought about like there's scenes in the book, and this isn't a spoiler because it's part of the story where she's meeting civilization for the first time. And that's gonna be really rough for somebody who's basically been raised in the woods, you know. So there's gonna be just this the amount of people, buildings, noise, things like that is gonna be really overwhelming to her. And she's gonna be lost in space in a sense. Um, so I feel like now that you're talking about this, I'm like, oh gosh, I could have gone for something more classical, something a little more somber, something almost like melancholic.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
like maybe because like those scenes aren't fully tightened up yet. I got about the whole book is laid out roughly, but like the words and the dialogue aren't all there yet. I'm still working on a lot of that. So maybe that's something I'll experiment with. Is something that evokes that feeling in me because like I said, usually it's bigger picture, and I don't mean that
Uh-huh.
it's better. I just mean that I'm thinking like, oh, the book has this feel. I'm not thinking of it as individual scenes. But that being said, music having such an effect on me, I think I would actually like to try that.
Okay, I was just curious. That's sort of what I end up doing when I write. Um, like especially
Okay.
recently, if I just need to sort of vomit words on a page, I'll listen to like lo-fi hip hops or something like very kind of
Hmm.
neutral that just helps to eliminate that other voice that wants to distract me from what I'm trying to do. But then,
Hmm.
when I go back and I'm like, I want to talk about this character who has, this sort of feeling like I'm working on a D&D campaign guide, and there's a certain group who are like sort of based on like ancient Celts and from that time. So I'll go and find like the Celtic music, and then I'll try to find songs that are like, if it needs to be like angry, actiony, I'll find songs that are more like that, or
Hmm.
something to try to like amp up my own natural feelings. So I'm just kind of curious how other people like to write, and I'm also curious, do you find a difference going from inker artist to writer in the kinds of music that you need to listen to?
Well, yeah, because as inker artist, most of the time I can listen to like shows or movies, which
Oh,
I actually prefer to music. A lot of people think I'm a
oh,
weirdo
interesting.
about that. Um, I got like when I was an inker full time, like day job, like that was my grind.
Hmm.
Was doing mainstream comics. Um, there would be I would probably go weeks without listening to music while
Oh,
working. I mean,
really?
obviously, I listen to music at other times. I would throw on series of shows. Like I always joke, I was the original binge watcher. I was like, I was binge watching before the term was even a term, um, because that's how I would watch stuff. I didn't watch regular TV or scheduled TV even at the time. Like once a direct TV came out, I was like, oh, okay, so I'm gonna stockpile a bunch of shows, and then I'm just gonna sit and like we were inking Spawn at the time, and I just remember just stockpiling like 4 seasons of Roseanne or something on my DVR, and I was like, all right,
Hmm.
this month I'm just gonna watch Roseanne, and I would just watch Roseanne while I worked, and but to me, there's a similar sort of meditation that comes with
Hmm.
that to music because I like people's voices and I find like sitcoms I like tend to have a rhythm that I appreciate that it just sort of puts my brain in the same place that music does. But I like the occasional laugh. That's kind of the difference. So I tend to watch
Oh,
mostly
interesting.
comedies and stuff like that. Um, and I was also trained that way, working at Danny Mickey's studio as a youngster. Because when you're inking, especially inking, I mean, you are tracing. You're tracing pencil work. So a lot of the brain work is done. You're in a meditative state. So when I started working for Danny, it was weird because, we go to the studio and he's like, what do you want to watch, Blade or Blade 2? I was like, well, wait, we have work to do, right? And I had a hard time because I was raised with this work ethic from my grandpa, my dad, all the people I'd worked with, where it was just, no, work first and play is the reward for work. But then Danny was like, no, man, we're working hard. We get rewarded while we're working hard as an inker. He's like, we don't have to think, so we can just listen to whatever we want and throw a thing on the TV. Just don't get too distracted by watching it. I was like, all right, this seems weird. And then lo and behold, I was like, this is actually really fun. I didn't think, I didn't think watching TV while I worked would be something I want to do, But that being said, writing and penciling, totally different. I cannot, there's no way when I'm especially doing layouts for pencils, there's no way I can listen to anything with any kind of a story or punchlines or anything. It's got to be pure music. I prefer stuff like almost like kind of like dance music in a sense. Maybe like Daft Punk or Rat-a-tat, like something that's like do, like it's kind of got this upbeat, but it's not too fast. Kind of anything that almost gets me just like kind of nodding or tapping my foot a little bit, and then I can feel the groove and get out of like escape all the voices in your head and find that creative one that's yelling.
So going back to it, you are a member of a band called the Tainted.
Yeah.
Are you guys still making music, by the way?
Yes, we are. Right before the show, I was like, I should send him some of the new stuff. I'll send you a link.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we last year we started going back into the studio to do like a big awesome album. We haven't made an album. We've made like little albums, like we went to Japan a couple years ago, and so we made like an LP for that, things like that. But we haven't made a full length album in almost a decade. So we were like, we're gonna go to a top studio with a top engineer, and we're gonna do it. And around March of this year, we were getting ready to go in for the final 4 songs and the final mixing, and well, we all know what happened in March. So we've slowed down on that end. Our engineer's opened back up, and he's doing sort of like socially safe recording and doing all that stuff. But one of our band members, his wife recently, God bless, she has been cured from her cancer, but her immune system is absolutely shot. Yeah, it's great news in that sense, but her system is shot. So even her doctors, even before all the stuff from this year, her doctors were like, flu season, you need to lock up. You're going to have to be just super safe. So we've been on hiatus for the recording because of that, but he still lets us come in his backyard. My friend whose wife this is, he still lets us come in his backyard. So we've been doing these weekend sessions the last few months, and we recently around Halloween we recorded like a whole concert basically of us doing acoustic songs, covers of Misfit songs and things like that. And so we've been experimenting, trying to figure out what can we do in this instance. What can we do that's different? So we're going to be starting to share those in the next couple of weeks too. So yeah, we're the Taint is still active, and
it's been 10 years, right?
Go ahead. Oh, sorry. We've been a band for 20 years.
Whoa.
Yeah. We took a 2-year hiatus at one point, and then but we kept playing together. We just, I don't know, every decade I realize as I get older, I think, that's the end of the stuff I did during that decade. Like when I turned 30, I was like, I guess I have to never wear shorts again and probably like stop playing in a band because I'm 30 now and I need to grow up. And then you're 30 and you're like, wait, I don't feel that much different than 29. I'm going to keep wearing shorts and playing in a band, And then you get to 40 and you're like, you and the band, all of us are like, are we still supposed to be doing this? And we were like, we were on the verge of maybe breaking up. And in 2016, and then Japan called and they were like, we want you guys to come play next year. We were like,
Wow.
Okay, all right, let's do this. And ever since then, we've been back together. We were playing shows regularly until this year.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's great.
we even we had a big show at the House of Blues last year that we opened up for some bands, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, it is weird being over 40 and in a band called the Taint.
So I have to question. There have been famous bands like Butthole Surfer. So to be honest, when you originally came up with the name, was it something that would happen to a human soul or body part?
It's the body part. Yeah. I don't have it handy, but our original logo was 2 circles, our name, and then an asterisk. So, as representations of body parts. Yeah, it was it was right before I joined the band. They were purely a Misfits cover band. That's all they were doing. And they wanted to start doing their own stuff and come up with a name. And they were obsessed with oh gosh, what was the name of Mr. Show, the sketch comedy show called Mr. Show. And they had a bit on there about taints. And my friends thought that was really funny. Again, we were in our early 20s at the time. And I mean, I still think it's funny today, but I'm just saying in your early 20s, it's ridiculously funny. So we thought that was hilarious. And we were all hanging out trying to come up with a band name. And my wife, girlfriend at the time, but my wife was like, you should just call it the Taint. We're like, what? She's like, that's all you guys talk about is people's taints. It's like all your jokes are the Taint, you just call yourselves the Taint. And what's funny is even at the time, like, I mean, we're just young punks and we were still kind of like, yeah, I don't know. Like that almost seemed kind of gross to us to call it that. And then it was one of those things too, as soon as we did it, we knew it was the perfect name for us. It got the right chuckle from people. It got a little disdain from people. And we were just kind of like, yeah, that's us. That's us in a nutshell. So,
all right.
Yeah,
I just had to know.
Yeah,
I saw the name and it was like, well, they are doing a lot of horror kind of themed songs.
Yeah, then, we go ahead.
Oh, well, the other thing I wanted to know is I was unfortunately my computer crashed like just before we started streaming, but I was going through videos and somebody put a Taint cover of Oh Holy Night. So this is kind of one of the things that I always have questions about bands, because it seems like at some point, almost every band or singer wants to come out with a Christmas album. So how long did it take you guys from starting to say like, we should do some Christmas songs?
It was about 10 years in, and
okay.
We realized that we wanted to always do holiday stuff if possible.
Awesome.
Because we had done stuff like that, like one-offs. We would play a show and it was Easter, so we would do some sacrilegious humor song about a Christ and a bunny or something, like we would do stuff like that, or Christmas would come around and we'd come up with something. But it was I would say about 10 years ago, our drummer, who's also he engineers a lot of our stuff that we self-record, and he was like, I want to do some he wanted to do a Halloween album, which we eventually released. We do have a Halloween album. And but then he was like, we started off, it was like, and it's kind of what we do is like every year we'll do a couple holiday songs. And we haven't built up to the Christmas album yet. We have, I think on YouTube we have Blue Christmas and Holy Night. Oh, Blue Christmas, it might be hidden. I'll look as we're talking here.
The only one I saw was Oh Holy Night, and I don't think it was on your channel.
No, it's not on mine. It should have been on the Taint Music.
No, it wasn't on the Taint Music channel.
Oh.
or at least that's not what it said. So I guess I don't
Huh.
know.
Our Blue Christmas is up there. I do see that. That's on the Taint music, and that one we did like a minor version of it. That was a thing that we like to do. We take a song that's popular and has a major chord as the main chord and has an upbeat feel, and we would make it a
Mhm.
minor chord and give it a melancholic, almost depressing feel. And so we did that with Blue Christmas, and then with Oh Holy Night, we took it into metal. It's just
It was a
jun
great
jun
version.
jun jun. I'm sorry, what's that?
It was a great version.
Oh, glad you listened and glad you liked it. Yeah, we did at the same time, I guess, that Weezer did theirs too, which I didn't know about. But someone was like, "Oh, you guys just like Weezer, huh?" We were like, "What? No, oh, really?" One of the
That's
most
how it always
popular
works.
bands in the world picked the same song as us. So I think we were even like, should we have harmonies? Because we did a bunch. We were like, oh, let's do a bunch of harmonies, and then we were like, oh, I don't know what the Weezer one's gonna sound like. Damn it! So we went with it, just did our version, and just stuck to it.
So do you
But
think that?
eventually, oh, sorry,
Oh no,
I
go
was gonna say
ahead.
one more thing, just
Eventually.
to answer your actual question. Eventually, we will have the Christmas album. We're just
Yes.
slowly putting the songs together, and then when we have like 10 or so, we'll just be like, "Here's the Taint's Christmas album, Christmas with the
uh,
Taint."
I can see, the cover. It's like a Christmas bulb on a tree with that logo. Be
Okay,
excellent.
I'm stealing that idea from you. That's great.
But how do having been in the music, like, how do you think that music has affected you in terms of the more visual arts and writing as well? But like, do you find that being able to um, create and play music also helps you to get out more ideas in other senses, like with the drawing or the inking and then the writing?
Yes. Sorry, I'm thinking about the question and my answer at the same time here. As two things, my brain's like,
Sorry. Yeah,
no, no,
maybe,
no,
maybe
because it's.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
I was
It's a
going
good
to say
question.
maybe the question wasn't clear. Just that, like, do you think the musical part helped to develop the other parts as well?
Yeah, no, no, you were clear. It's a great question. I'm just trying to think of how to form it in my head. Like, uh, I guess any creative practice, any skill set or craft that I'm trying or practicing has benefits across the board. Like I'm gonna say that's universal too, whether
Hmm.
people see it in themselves, others or not. Um, it's one of the reasons I try to tell young they're like, oh, I'm just working my crappy retail job and can't wait to get out of there. And oh, I was just telling people like I'm not going to be here long, and and I hate this job, and having that attitude when they go into work. And I try to tell them like the attitude that you want to have as an artist, you need
Hmm.
to employ that as your attitude when you're doing jobs you don't want to do. So you're working your
Yeah.
retail job, you need to do that retail job to the best of your ability for yourself, not for other
Yes.
people, but for
Yes.
yourself. And I think in that same sense, um, music as an outlet helps me in other ways because you become more in tune to your creativity. You become more in tune to what your actual voice is as opposed to what you're repeating. We meme or
Hmm.
we gene. We either copy or we produce from
Hmm.
on our own. And what it really ends up being is everything is an amalgamation of the two because that's how we work.
Sure.
Um, and so I would say that yes, it did help, but not in the sense that music only helped everything, but just that
Hmm.
branching out creatively helps you get in tune more with your creativity. It helps you decide quicker because as no matter what, you're writing music, drawing, writing, there's going to be indecision on which direction to go, what word to use, chord to play. anything like that. But the more you do across the board, the more you kind of like, you learn to hone in on what's right. You hone in on what's you. All the experience failures of my failures in music prepared me incredibly for my failures at live streaming. Because we used to go up and do ridiculous things on stage when we were young, like purposefully. We would have pinatas with French fries in them. The crowd, like first we'd set up the crowd with the pinata with candy, and they're like, "Yay, candy!" And then we're like, "Hey, here's the next pinata," and it's old French fries, and that that would become pure chaos, and the crowd would turn on you. So I'm used to the crowd. I got used to the crowd turning on me or making a fool of myself. We would do stuff where we would just absolutely make fools of ourselves. And then you cut to 20 years later, I'm on a live stream the other day with Peter, and we hadn't prepared any of this stuff. And he puts me and Robert Geronimo against each other, and he's like, smack talk each other. And we had already been going back and forth play fighting. And we'd already used up all our smack talk that we had planned. So when this new round came up, I was like, what? And I'm just like pulling from stuff I'd said. I'm saying stupid things. I'm failing. The crowd is eating me up. The chat is eating me alive. But meanwhile, I'm having a blast with it because the experience I got on stage years ago, where people would throw bottles at us to make fun of us or to get mad at, where a crowd turned on us because we turned on them or things like that. Like all of that stuff, like it was so crazy that dealing with being a dork on a live stream is nothing. Like, the crowd chewed me up and made fun of me, but it was all in good spirits. Fun, Like I could have been like, this is horrible. I failed Peter. Everyone's making fun of me. It could have easily gone that route. But luckily the experience I've had has taught me like, no, you can be a fool and you're going to be fine. And you can be a fool and you think the people laughing at you might be turning on you. They're just having fun with you being a fool, and you're still their friend. Things like that. So, I'm always recommending like young artists, like go out, experience as much as you can, be creative in as many ways as you can. Pick up that guitar, pick up that paintbrush, pick up a typewriter. Get whatever out you need to get out. Like you said earlier about needing to vomit words on a page. I have a few writer friends like that half the stuff they do like that isn't for their writing. They just have something in them, and they'll throw on some music and realize, oh, I had a horror scene in my head, got it out on paper. Now my brain's operating better. Yeah, I'm free and clear now. Or the things like that. Now I feel like I'm rambling, getting on a ramble rant here.
No worries. So we are
Sorry, reading Blast Beat's comment.
Oh, yikes, Austin. I've heard it can be quite rough down there.
Oh yeah, I bet. But yeah, the stand-up's another thing. If you've ever gotten up to do anything like stand-up, like getting online to talk to people is nothing. So yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that, but
all right. Well, don't want to keep you too long tonight. Anything else that we should know about Thunderella? It looks like you're about 20 backers away from. I think I calculated it.
Actually, we're even closer. We're 16 backers away from 300.
Nice.
And just 300 away from fully funding. So should happen in the next couple of days. Hopefully tonight. Hopefully tonight.
So what can we expect in the future from Hammerella herself or the Gods and Gears universe?
Well, let me adjust my chair for this big answer here. All right. That's awesome. We are expanding and continuing the Gods and Gears universe here with the Hammerella story. So the funding goes to the Hammerella book, which you'll get, but we're also going to be starting issues 5 through 8. We're going to launch Dean on those issues and try to get those all done so that we can get those over to Peter and out to Alterna for next year. And then
Awesome.
after those come out, we will be releasing a newsprint version that will have none of the extras and none of the goodies, but we'll have a newsprint version of Hammerella, which will be titled as Gods and Gears Annual #1.
Oh, nice.
And that will be how we sort of bring these characters into the regular series before they meet the characters. Eventually, they will meet Jimmy and Eli and their characters. But for now, they're going to be relegated to the annuals or special collections that we're doing each year for our crowdfunding. So we will see more Hammerella, and not just the same story in 2 different versions. I do have follow-up plans for her and Blue Astra to do more stories, and I do have other characters that I'd like to bring into the Gods and Gears universe to do these annuals with. So we're going to sort of have the Jimmy and Eli doing their story, and then we're going to have these way their cosmic characters doing their story, and then eventually we'll bring them together for a really big story.
Very cool. And do you ever think that so right now the Gods and Gears in general, they're the standard 22-page floppy, right? Yeah, 22. Yeah. Do you think that there may be more of the Alterna giant sized in the future?
We're in talks with Peter about that. I do believe that we're going to do a giant of the first 4 issues right before issues 5 through 8 come out, so that anyone that wants to get caught up on that will do that. We're also going to eventually do a collection. I'm thinking the next crowdfunder we do would be for a much smaller amount, because it would be for stuff that's already produced. Because I'd like to do a perfect bound version of the first 4 issues, like a nice trade paperback version. And I have a lot of readers that are looking for that as well. So I think we could do a smaller campaign, make the book really affordable, and get that out to people next year as well. So we do have some plans for the collections to come out, because Alterna doesn't do trades anymore. They only do the giant collection. Right. So doing the trade will be up to us. So I'm going to be talking to fans too, and just seeing like what they want, what they expect. But most of them do want an actual nice, perfect bound semi-gloss version of the book.
Very cool. All right, so everyone, go check out Hammerella Thunder Smoke. Got it right that time.
That's right.
Only 6 days left. If you haven't bought yourself a copy, go buy it. It looks awesome. And thanks a lot for stopping by, Ryan. And hopefully we'll get to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I always enjoy discussions with you. And thanks to the chat. And thanks for everyone who's backed.
All right, everyone. Yan Zhao signing out. If you like this, click like, subscribe, and leave your comments down below about how well or poorly I did this interview. See you all next time.